might need to do a reintroduction for you, Jay, because you're pretty much the co-owner of the Soul Dojo and basically like the man by my side. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So go ahead, reintroduce yourself real quick for the people that are watching this video.
So for you guys that don't know, I am Jamal, formerly known as G Allen, but we've kind of dropped the G Allen because it's kind of gone off into the dust.
Is that what's going on? It gone off to the dust. Oh
Yeah,
no.
It's
Got
gone off into the dust,
when
man.
Thanos snapped his finger,
Yeah,
that's what left was Gion.
yeah,
Oh
right.
my goodness. Oh my goodness. But yeah, Jay is basically co-owner of the Soul Dojo. Even though I'm like the front man, the guy that is in front of the camera. This is the guy that basically helped me kind of get it up and running and gave me a lot of advice on creating a channel because he had something really good going on Twitch with the Destiny raids and stuff like that. A lot of people were watching that, and it was really awesome to see. So, so Jay, man, appreciate you getting on this video with me, man.
Oh, no problem, man. I had some free time, finally got a vacation time, so I definitely know this was like a main priority.
Of course. So, man, let's jump into what's been going on. So this is going to be a lot of EA-based content right now. If you were listening on Spotify, make sure you guys follow us on the Soul Dojo on Spotify. If you are watching us on YouTube, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button because we love all the subscribers we are getting. We're almost at 300, so let's make it happen. But look, Electronic Arts, once again, they've had a earnings call, and once again, they are just not seeing exactly what is going on. It seems like they have kind of they're just not well connected to what their fans want or what is going on in the gaming community and what's going on in the gaming industry. It seems like they're just disconnected and don't really understand kind of how things work. So there was an earnings call. Andrew Wilson has spoke on kind of the failed games that have been Anthem and Battlefield 5. They talked a little bit about the success of Apex Legends, but what I really got out of this earnings call is that they want to change the way they launch games, right? So this is just a little bit of what Andrew Wilson was talking about. It says, but it all comes down to the change in how we launch games and how we roll out. And you should expect that we'll start the testing of soft launches. So just that little bit right there. And then it goes on to the same thing you see in the mobile space right now. So what I see is once again, this is very stupid from Electronic Arts and from Andrew Wilson, thinking that they need to soft launch games. I think that's an issue. And then basically comparing these AAA titles to, we should kind of do what mobile games do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of things wrong there. You're talking about soft launches here, right? So
Mm-hmm.
soft launches, basically they're gonna give you a game. They're gonna make you pay $60 for a game that isn't finished, but giving the player feedback, they're gonna fix that game.
So they're going to release this game. So basically, they're going to have a beta, but they're going to charge you for the beta.
Basically, like, but it's not even gonna be in beta form. Like, it's literally gonna be the full release game of that time, but they want to interact with the players and the fans and fix the game given their feedback.
Yeah, but that in a sense of it's the full game,
Right.
but it's the beta format because the whole point of a beta, like you could do this literally for free
Mm-hmm.
because if you throw out a beta, there's people that may not even play this game, may not have even heard of this game, but because it's a free game, it's a popular game. You know, if that's a popular game that they're releasing, which typically any EA published game is, then you would be able to get that feedback. You're trying to cut corners because you're like, okay, well, we're going to just sell you this game and then we'll be interactive with you guys. No, that should be already the case. That's the whole point that we have the betas. And then when the game is released, okay, this ought to be something that you should be actively doing. So speaking of a game that does all this stuff for free, and now although we don't play this game necessarily, we give this game credit where credit is due. Fortnite. Fortnite is one of the games that, love it or hate it, whatever people may say. Like I said, there's a lot of people that may play the game and complain a lot of things. But me looking at Fortnite and from the beginning until where it is now, they're one, I guess you can say publisher or developer, whatever you want to have them as, is one of those people that are actively listening to their community. They released this game. The game was pretty amazing, but there were things that the community felt, okay, well, this ought to be changed, this ought to be changed. And they were actively listening to these things, making changes where changes were needed. Now, this was a game that they released that was it was an amazing product, but then they were constantly fixing it as it went on, or making I won't say fixing, but making adjustments based upon the community feedback. So I mean
Right.
that sounds pretty crazy.
Right. And with Fortnite, since that's the example we're saying, that's a free game,
Yeah.
right? So I'm thinking, listening to all this, what they're talking about is like they're gonna start doing their main triple, like Dragon Age will come
Mhm.
out as a soft launch, but they're going to add in things later. So it's like you're gonna pay $60 for this for an unfinished product, and it's like
Yeah.
this isn't nothing necessarily you guys have been doing different. Like the only thing different is you guys are not gonna heavily advertise the game,
Yeah.
which I think is just absolute like that. You shouldn't be doing that. And comparing the AAA market to like a mobile space, like why? Like, since when have mobile games been that well respected amongst the gamers that you are trying to persuade to buy your games?
Exactly.
And it's like, I don't. Me personally, I don't like mobile games. I don't like the structure of mobile games, and that's why I'm like, why don't they see the issue with this? And another thing that came out of this um, press conference was that they still don't think it's their fault for Battlefield 5 or Anthem. It's because of games like Red Dead Redemption 2 that me and you both like, because
Mhm.
of games like God of War, because games like Spider-Man. But why doesn't Electronic Arts, and Jay, this is an honest question to you. Why doesn't Electronic Arts look at those games, see how they went, like how they got so much money and how they got so well respected within the gaming industry? If you look at God of War came out as a finished game. There isn't any
Mhm.
DLC for it. It was finished, and
Right.
it was an amazing story. Same thing with, well, there was DLC with Spider-Man, but that was a finished game. Great
Mhm.
story. Red Dead storyline, one of the best games, game of the year between me and you, we say,
Yeah.
and it was a finished product.
And
Why
you know
don't
what?
they see that?
And you know what? I will touch on even with the concept. So let's take Red Dead. You know that is a very popular game, a game that we both enjoyed. So we can speak a little bit more to it. So now here's the thing that what Red Dead did that was so we'll say so amazing because it's similar to this concept. Now it's similar to the concept. So we know that the storyline for or the single player aspect, let's put it that way, of Red Dead was fully complete. The online was, we'll say, complete as in far as what they wanted to be, but they still kept it, in that beta form,
Yeah.
if you will. It wasn't that okay, well, they were going to cut any corners, but just kind of like how similar to Fortnite. They kept it in its beta form. They let them know, letting everybody know, hey, listen, this says online beta for a reason. We have to see how this works out once people actually get onto this game to actually really see, what's going to happen. What are we going to need to change? So it's I don't know why EA can't necessarily look at that. And like I said, there's been a lot of mobile games. Like I said, me, I don't necessarily hate mobile games, but like I said, when it comes down to being able to play on PC, being able to play console, those are going to be the first ones I go for. Um,
Right.
why they can't see this method? Like I said, EA is very, we'll say, very money hungry, and that's what this idea is, because it is not anything. They're trying to disguise it as something that is going to be okay. Well, it's going to be consumer friendly. We're going to care about our fans and the people that are investing into these games by purchasing these games. But that's really not. You're selling that idea for
Yeah.
the sake of, okay, well, making more money.
Do you trust Electronic Arts to basically so if they soft launch a game, do you trust them to fix what's in the game that is wrong? Because they're basically giving you a game with the sole purpose knowing that it's messed up.
Mhm.
I can't get my head around that.
I can't trust it simply because, like I said, if they can't fix the full launch games, and I mean, just as a simple things, these are things that, and when we talk about this, we know typically when they're talking about the soft launch, they're talking about, okay, some major things that they're truly going to have to fix, like some things that they may have to overhaul, take a whole game mode out of the game.
Mm-hmm.
We know that those things are going to come, or those things should come with a soft launch. That's the purpose of it. That you can go that further in depth versus with a full launch game. Okay, that it's going to be minor things that they're going to do that they can't necessarily do that they could in a soft launch.
Yeah.
So if they can't fix the simple things, I mean the simple things in a full launch game, I don't trust them to do it in a soft launch. And here's the thing about it: now they can take as long as they want to because they're not going to put any timetable behind any of these things. So literally, they can say, okay, well, we're listening, we're weighing it, we're working on something. So they can sit here and give us that excuse for the longest. And listen, we paid for the game because we fully knew going into it that it was a soft launch, that there was going to be issues, and that's what I have a problem with.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you're willing to pay that money, knowing it's a bad game, you probably deserve what you get.
Yeah. Mm.
You probably do deserve what you get out of that. Um, so, and with Battlefield 5's issue, I think they really do need to look at that situation, because I think that completely fell apart on them, because they told people that were hardcore Battlefield fans that you're gonna want to please those fans while trying to bring in new fans.
Yeah.
And just get the most bang for your buck. They basically told them, if you don't like what you see, don't buy the game. So people didn't buy the game, but you still blame other game companies and other video games for the fail of that game. That's what really doesn't understand. So is it just having stupid people in high places at EA? Or is it, like you said, they're just money hungry, so they're just going to go with a certain kind of route every time?
It seems, and like I said, and we should first off, and we've said this plenty of times on this channel, we've said this plenty of times, period. We don't hate EA. Like I said, EA is one of the biggest developers, one of the biggest publishers out.
I wanted Anthem to succeed. Anthem to succeed.
Yeah. We want any game that grace our eyes or grace stores to succeed, because that's the whole purpose for them. There's money that is being charged for this product. Yeah. So we want it to succeed. So what the problem with EA is, it's like I said, and this is something that slowly but surely, and there was at one point in time that EA wasn't as money hungry as they were. And like I said, they've always had places or incompetent people in high places.
Right.
So it's so bothersome because it's a little bit of both. Now, like I said, I understand that they have a difficult job, and we're not saying that, but like I said, we're talking about the simple matters here. This doesn't take a whole lot of thinking to do. You know what formula it is because you can look at all the rest. See, here's the thing: if we didn't have a data to back up these different things that they could do, then it'd be a problem. We wouldn't be able to criticize them as much as we do. But when we look at games like Red Dead, we look at games like Fortnite, we look at God of War, Spider-Man, all of these different games that have been released, and all these games that have over time that have been released, and seen the formula that they've taken that was still consumer friendly, was a big success. And we're looking at, okay, well, they're game of the year when they release. We're still here figuring out, okay, well, why can't EA do this? There is no excuse for you not to be able to do this. You're probably arguably, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd say top 5 in terms of money, resources, you name it. Out of all the developers, publishers, you're literally $1 billion, probably more, $1 billion company. You have more resources than anybody. Your name alone carries weight. Everybody that hears EA they're willing to sacrifice their product in order to work with EA, given the reputation of EA.
Right.
But yet they hold such this high value that, listen, your resource endless. You're talking about companies with limited resources, does not have all the funding that you have, but yet they're still able to produce this amazing product. It's baffling.
It really isn't. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they're a $1 billion company. I mean, they have so many resources, and there's really no excuse for them. And EA is just going to be EA at this point. Let's kind of move on to the loot box thing. The loot box bill has it's finally been proposed. When we first heard about it, I actually heard about it last year. It was an idea. Then it got moved to, okay, we're going to start writing it down and get all the legal team behind it. Now it's official. It's been written down. It's been proposed. Basically, the big thing to come out of this is loot boxes considered gambling? And if it is, it needs to be taken out of games from rated E all the way to T, because for the most part, minors are playing those games. We don't know for sure if it's going to go anywhere over that, because I think it really needs to be taken out of rated M games also. But
Hmm.
I'm also teetering on the fact that, well, with Fortnite, it's not a pay to win scheme. It's more of a cosmetic kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
it's like, but you can spend actual money to that. So do you
Hmm.
just take out the payment aspect so you can't put real money into it?
Hmm.
Or are you just gonna completely take out loot boxes in general? I don't really know what you said on this, Jay, with kind of the loot box deal and is it gambling and should they be taking it out of these games?
So we look at, okay, let's break it down in this sense. And you made a very, very, very interesting point that I'm going to touch on there. So we're when we talk about the E through T, so hold that idea in your head, and we're
Yeah.
going to get back to it. So when we look at gambling, we know that gambling in the U.S. is legal. Legally, gambling in the U.S. There's a bunch of million and one casinos, or whatever the case may be. Now, there is some legal online gambling. Now that's when we start to go propose, okay, well, there's only, from what I've seen, there's only about 7 states that, there's some form of online gambling that is legal. So as much as I would like for it to just be taken out of M-rated games, it is still legal
Right.
in some places. Now, once again, we're talking about these uh, E through T, everyone through teens. Okay, at that point in time, yeah, it needs to be removed. The biggest problem, though, and like I said, this goes on to a uh, we'll say EA and a lot of these companies that do this. And when we talk about gambling in terms of, or at least loot boxes and whatnot, we're talking about the things where these things have a way of contributing to the overall gameplay of the game,
Mm-hmm.
affecting the game in a certain way.
You were absolutely right.
So you nailed it on the head. We're not talking about cosmetic things. We're talking about something that can physically impact this game. Whether the weapon or whatever the item is may suck, it is something that is not coming with the base game that
Yeah.
you cannot earn. You cannot earn through gameplay. Now here's the loophole behind these things. And this is why, as much as we would like the bills to be passed, it makes it so difficult. Now they can take out the money aspect of it, and I hope they do, because they make these games to where you can earn coins or whatever. So let's say FIFA, for example. FIFA, you can earn coins in their Ultimate Team in order to buy the packs. So really, you're provided with that opportunity. But then, okay, well, if you don't feel like doing that grinding, they try to offer this option. Well, just pay for it and you'll be able to get it. And it's a reason why these things have. This is something that's been around for years. We're talking about almost 10 years or so. That this has been around, or I would say a little bit under 10 years, that this has been around for so long, but yet it hasn't been challenged as much because there's always this loophole behind it. So, like I said, we're looking at, okay, well, yeah, they can try to pass the E through T, and at the end of the day, now it's going to come down to everybody that's selling these games. So your Walmarts, your Targets, or whatever the case may be, at the end of the day, there's so many ways that these kids are going to be able to get their hands on these games. And when you look at it, okay, who is their main target? Clearly, we're living in a time where there are a lot of just young gamers. These things are attracting young gamers. So they're going to their parents or whoever the case may be to buy this, to buy that.
Right.
Can I get this loot box? Can I get that? So yeah, it's a tricky situation.
It really is, and yeah, and the messed up part about it is like if it does just go through E through T, I feel like a lot of games that probably don't necessarily deserve it will be affected, which would
Yeah.
be the Fortnite, which would be the Apex Legends that don't have the aspect of pay to win, we should say.
Mm-hmm.
What game would be affected, and I think the game that set it all off is Star Wars Battlefront 2, but that game is for the most part now fixed better to suit a player now.
Yeah.
Um, but when you look at games like maybe on I want to say Call of Duty might have a little bit of a
Yeah. Last I checked,
or
they had.
was it the one before the World at War one that had kind of like a more of a pay to win aspect to it?
So there's been Advanced Warfare. There's been COD. Pretty much all of them. Everything. All of them since Advanced Warfare, which is years back. That's when they had their first space
Yeah.
jumper type ordeal.
Yeah.
Pretty much each one of them have had some aspect of that. Some have toned it down because, like I said, we know there's different developers working on these different games. Some have toned it down, but overall, there's still that aspect within all of those since Advanced Warfare.
Yes. And now I'm gonna pose this question to you because apparently, I don't think this question is too outlandish. I brought it up in our My Ninja podcast. If you guys want to go check out that channel, you can. My Ninja Gaming. Um, when we let's look back on microtransactions just to end off this thing here.
Mm.
Microtransactions kind of came into the whole gaming sphere because of how much money it is to make a video game, right? It's
Yeah.
so much money now. You look at GTA, $500 million. You look at
Mm.
I want to say even maybe Halo 4, about a
Yeah.
good 3 million, like 300
Yeah.
million.
Right.
Woo. So we're looking at a lot of money here. And it seems like $60 just isn't enough. And they
Mm-hmm.
want to implement small things. Now I feel like in the beginning it was cosmetic stuff. It was just straightforward. Hey, you want a skin? $2.99. Bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
When you enjoy a game, you kind of want to give back to the developers and give back to the company,
Of
all that
course.
stuff. At some point, we were looking at maybe a increase in pricing for video games. Now, I
Mm-hmm.
don't think it's too outlandish to be looking at maybe $70, $80 for a video game in compensation of for you will not have anything. You will not have any like any tinkering of your progression in games due to loot boxes, because
Mm-hmm.
that is a kind of a conversation that comes up is, okay, if we're having these pay to win schemes, we got to make loot boxes look appealing. So let's slow
Mm-hmm.
down a player's progression,
Right.
which is I think is 100% wrong.
It is.
So you're gonna keep that, or are you gonna keep all that away from games? And I feel like, Jay, this issue is so big that they manipulate these games. They
Yeah.
really do when it comes to these loot boxes and these pay to win schemes. So it's like, would you pay that extra $10? Hopefully it doesn't get to 80. I think 80 is probably pushing it, but would you pay that extra $70 for a game that you know you like, that's gonna have all these schemes, all the pay to win schemes, all the microtransactions away from it, just to have a decent experience?
I would, because it would far outweigh. So you're looking at now typically, and I was playing Destiny. I told you I just got back on Destiny, so they have what is called like an annual pass or whatnot. And I'm really not sure the state of that game. Like I said, as I start to do a little bit more research on it and start to play a little bit more, I probably have something that we can talk that kind of another EA idea that we had covered in the past. But I would, simple for the simple fact is that now you're typically spending about $120 on new games these days, especially these games that have, these loot boxes or these packs or whatever the case may be. You're typically paying about $120. So I
Mm-hmm.
would much rather pay $70, and that excludes the taxes. Obviously, we know that any new game comes out to about $68.50, somewhere around there,
Yeah.
for a new game. So I would much rather pay that $70 with the tax and be able to have a game that is enjoyable, a game that is complete, a game that I can truly progress in.
You know what's
Versus
funny
paying.
is, my bad, I didn't mean to cut you off, but before I forget, you know what's funny is, like, I play Days Gone.
Yeah.
It wasn't, and I think I told you about it. I really wasn't too impressed with Days Gone, but
Mhm.
the fact that they didn't have all this negative, player stuff, like, the loot
Yeah.
boxes, the microtransactions, all that stuff, and just because the
Yeah.
game didn't have none of that and it was
Yeah.
straightforward with me,
Mhm.
for some reason I just appreciated the game more for that.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that, because I feel like, dang, is the game industry messing up that much? I don't think the game industry is bad. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some shady stuff going on. Don't get me
Mhm.
wrong, but I don't think everything about the gaming industry is bad. But it's like, am I looking at this like, wow, the gaming industry is messing up so much that I'm appreciating the little things at this point.
Yeah. And it's more of, like I say, it's not even that there's a whole bunch of people doing it as much as it is the big figures
Right, right,
and the forefront
right.
of the gaming industry is messing up these things. So therefore it is messing up everything for everyone else. Because when you have all these big figures that they make up 50% of the gaming community by themselves, your Activisions,
Mm-hmm.
your EAs, and these
Bethesda,
different companies,
EA,
yeah,
yeah.
they make up this big portion of the gaming community or the gaming industry. And so when they do these things, it just literally messes up everything, because they're literally producing, or they're publishing over half of the games that we're going to come across. Therefore, these games are going to have these things in there. So when you come across a game, like I said, a poor game, it can be a terrible game, but the simple fact that it doesn't have these things, that it's straightforward, you're going to appreciate it more. And it's sad that we have to come to that, because you want to appreciate all games. You want to be able to appreciate the games that have been heavily advertised, that have been heavily talked about, that are at all your E3s and all your different gaming shows, or whatever the case may be. You want to appreciate those things, but you can't, because you know what to expect. And it starts to ruin different games going forth, because you're like, okay, well, they told me all this, but are they going to have some kind of loot box? Are they going to try to add something in here that's going to take away from the game? Are they going to give me an incomplete game that I got to pay more money just to get to?
Right, that is true. And I do gotta remind everybody, I'm not. Days Gone is a decent game. It
Mm-hmm.
isn't a terrible game. It really
Yeah.
isn't. It's under PlayStation, so you expect it to be a little bit more pro consumer, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, man, that. Let me know in the comments, you guys. I mean, this is a lot of stuff to unpack, and because the gaming industry is starting to shift a little bit more. Um, Jay, I kind of want to talk to you one last thing.
Yeah.
I was watching this video about this. It was a certain YouTuber, and he was talking to the creator of God of War, and he was like, the creator of God of War was like, just don't buy the games. Like, why do you need the government to intervene? You know what I'm saying? Like, and
Yeah.
he made the comparison like, oh, you guys are just like running up to daddy, like, snitching and stuff, basically.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about kind of that? Like, should does I feel like how I feel about it is like we we can not buy the games, but we can't control other people not buying them. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
Mm-hmm.
I think at some point it has to be we have to go to the government. We kind of have to get that power that's bigger than us to kind of reach out and start intervening. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like yeah, we can not buy the games, but EA has failed and they're not even blaming themselves.
Right.
So how do you feel
So,
about that?
um, so as you were saying, that I had to kind of make sure that I was unbiased, because when I heard it, because like I said, it's easy. It's one of the old cliche. It's easy said than done. So we're saying, okay, well, just not buy the game. Now we've done that with a few games. Like I said, you guys haven't seen any FIFA on this channel besides the last, I believe, the review of the beta or whatever they had it. And other
That's
than that, like
true.
I said, you haven't seen anything from FIFA. You've seen PES. So that was a stand there. But you can't literally do this with every game, because, like I said, these games are either one of their own kind, or literally you're not going to, how to put this? You cannot buy the game. And we can see that, okay, well, that's still not going to change. Now, we hope that FIFA changes, but at the end of the day, it may not.
Yeah.
It's easy said than done, but like I said, when it comes down to, okay, well, these games that there are no other games like this, or there's no game with these concepts that captures all of this. Like I said, typically these games is that we don't hate the gameplay of the game, but like I said, it's what they're all adding into the game that ruins the game, that you no longer want to play. So like I said, I disagree with it. Um, but yet, like I said, when you have, I guess we talking about the forefront of this industry. If these are people that are forefront of this industry, you not buying it, listen, they're just going to take a whole lot of people to not buy this game.
Right.
I mean, a whole lot of people not to buy this game. And so, okay, now my question is to him is, okay, well, you're going to produce these games that we're no longer buying? So it's like I said, I agree to an extent, but you can't do that with every last game. It just wouldn't make any sense. There's no way, because literally it would take a ton, I mean an absolute ton of people for it to
Yeah.
eventually start to affect them, for them to start making those changes. And like I said, when you got games that are not coming out, that are not similar to these things, that don't capture all this stuff, then you're in a bind, because now you're losing out on this experience that you wanted to have.
Right. Exactly. And especially when it comes to games like Madden and FIFA, where those games basically keep EA afloat at this point because of how many people buy them and play them.
Right.
It's very hard. It's a very hard situation. Make sure you guys subscribe and like the video. It does a lot for us here on the Seoul Dojo. We have some great things coming, man. Jay has been hooking up the setup at his place. We're gonna get him more here on the channel because, man, two heads are better than one as always. Man, I appreciate you being on the channel as always, my man. And you know that's it, man. Make sure you guys subscribe, comment below. If you're on Spotify, make sure you follow us, and we'll check you guys later. All right, peace.
Viewers beware. Smart but still ain't knowing nothing, sick and sipping Robitussin. Hella not myself today, give it a say, the flow is coming. Be the type of dude you wanna ask him if he holding something. Got that high-tech store-bought, rolling up with. Be in the section with the people that I'm smoking with. Hit it then I hold it in, hold it then I choke again. I'm that socialist, vocalist, you show your friends. More to corruption than some Donald Trump emoluments. That really says a lot about society. Now